Michigan, as I understand it, there is a safety questionnaire, a 10-day purchase permit that's required, a sales form, firearm safety inspection list. There are a number of policies in place, as well as a state and federal background checked, and we still see high levels of violence there and in other urban areas. Casey, do most of your listeners say that just proves that gun control can't work, or?
Well, yeah, the reality is, and we could talk about it being population or possibly the culture of urban areas, but places that traditionally have more stringent gun control tend to have higher gun crimes in those populated areas. That just seems to be the case. We can debate all day long about what is causing that.
Which way the causal arrow goes.
And we'll probably get 4 different opinions here on this panel, maybe even 5 if you weigh in. But I actually agree with what the chief said. I'm calling for a reasonable debate. My problem is the debate that we're talking about with the legislation in Washington, D.C. is not reason-based. It's not based on the stats from the FBI. It's not based on the stats from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Nobody's talking about getting rid of those universal background checks. I want more screening of mental health. We know that these mass shootings, almost all of them involve somebody who's being treated by a psychotropic drug. We know that. Why is that continuing to be a problem? Penalties for people who, again, it's your property. If somebody takes your weapon, who might happen to be a relative, and uses it in a crime, is there culpability on the owner for not properly securing that weapon? These are the things that I'm calling for, biometrics, things of that nature. Where it becomes unreasonable is where you say, we're going to limit the magazine capacity, which we know from the assault weapons ban, after the study was done on the effectiveness of that in 2004, did nothing to reduce gun crimes whatsoever. The FBI says you fire 2.5 shots per engagement, so it's not going to do anything. What we do know is that those Korean shop owners in the LA riots and that man who was standing on his roof in the LA riots needed 20 and 30 round magazines to defend their property and their home. We know that just 3 weeks ago, somebody was attacked, actually 3 people were attacked by 27 people after a Celtics game. 10 round magazine isn't going to help them. They're going to need more than that. So all I'm asking for is that reasonable discussion, those things that do not infringe on somebody's rights, that can help reduce these things, school security, which clearly has to be improved.
Okay, and I'll let others weigh in just a minute. We want to go to Phil, who has a question about South Bend.
Good afternoon. I have 2 comments. It seemed that in the past years, the South Bend City Council banned people being able to own tasers. Now, I'm not a gun owner, and guns are violent, but you go and ban other means of people being able to defend themselves, and then you say, oh, there's gun violence. So, and some of the reasoning was ridiculous, like, well, somebody might tase a police officer and take his gun. So I just think that's an option that you haven't left the public with all this gun debate. And the second comment I have is I saw a news clip where a town in California, the police were actually going to the people that weren't supposed to have guns, 6 or 7 officers, and taking their guns away and arresting them. And we never see that happening. I don't know what statistics there are, and I know you have to be aware of it, but then what programs are there to check that people that are not supposed to have guns are not possessing guns? And then take their guns away. Because all the public ever hears is, we're going to pass more laws, we're going to pass more laws. So I wonder what your comments are on that. And one last thing, there was a really good show on PBS about the need for more mental health services, and that was really good. Thanks.
Thank you, and we will talk more about mental health. Ron, perhaps you could respond.
To which part of what he said? It was multi-layered.
Yes, well, are local law enforcement officials doing anything to actually identify people who illegally possess weapons and to confiscate those?
I promise your viewing and listening audience that if we have information that someone in South Bend right now is unlawfully possessing a gun, we will put every effort to taking that gun away from someone who's not qualified to have it. And hopefully it will save a life or save a crime from happening with gun violence.
What about the issue of tasers as an alternative, a non-lethal alternative to people who do feel that need to protect themselves?
Being new here, I wasn't part of that discussion when the Common Council addressed that. There are varying responses to this new device, and I say fairly new. It's only been in the marketplace in this generation, electronic control devices. Certainly less lethal. That's why we carry them. Police departments across the country have seen quite a remarkable drop in the number of officer-involved shootings because the taser is an appropriate instrument to be used in the right circumstance. It's so much so that the ACLU has now come out and endorsed it and asked chiefs that don't have it to please get it and use it. So I think that can be part of our reasonable discussion about what appliances should be in the marketplace and readily available, and which license requirements do we have. The problem quickly about licensing, though, and we go into mental health to segue in, is we, as a licensing authority, take a snapshot of someone as to their appropriateness for the firearm when they apply. But we need to have a robust and ongoing discussion about what happens to that person through their gun ownership, whether it's a 4-year or a lifetime license, when there's a change in their circumstances. Much like someone who's driving an automobile, who the family or people around them see that they're deficient in their skills, they need to be re-examined and may take the license away. We don't have the mechanism nationally to do that regularly.